Hello, my name is Jason Hayes, and I'm the Associate Minister for Pastoral Care at First Congregational Church in Boulder, Colorado. This video offers some ideas of what you might attempt to accomplish when you design a funeral or memorial service for someone who has died by suicide, and it includes some specific suggestions for implementing these goals. It also includes a list of do's and don'ts for reducing the chance of suicide contagion. A memorial service, no matter how the person died, should be a time for healing and remembrance. It is not a time for judging. As you design a memorial service for someone who has died by suicide, keep these goals in mind. You want to promote healing and offer comfort. You want to increase awareness and understanding to lessen stigma around suicide, and reduce the chances of suicide contagion. So let's first talk about promoting healing and offering comfort. You want to comfort the grieving. Just as you do when others die, help suicide survivors find comfort within the context of their faith and their faith community. Part of offering comfort is helping survivors deal with their guilt. Suicide survivors often feel a great deal of guilt and a sense of responsibility because they were not aware of what was going on with their loved one, or they were unable to prevent the suicide. They may spend months or years asking themselves what they could have or what they should have done differently. While these questions are nearly universal, they do not necessarily lead to healing or closure. Again, offer resources to alleviate their guilt within the context of your faith tradition. You also want to help survivors face their anger. Friends and family of the deceased may feel a great deal of anger. That anger can be directed at the deceased, at God, at other survivors, or at you. Assure friends and family members that feeling and expressing anger is a normal part of the grieving process, and remind them that even when their anger is directed toward the person who died by suicide, it doesn't mean that they cared for or loved the person any less. Next, let's talk about the second goal: increasing awareness and understanding. Misinformation and judgmental religious views of suicide create an environment that can leave survivors feeling embarrassed and isolated. The memorial service can be a good opportunity to help the community shed its religious prejudices and stigma. Take a stand against negative religious views of suicide. Ask the family if they want information about mental illness shared at the service. With the family's permission, dispel common myths about mental illness. Remind attendees that moral weakness, character flaws, and bad parenting do not cause mental illness, except in some cases that involve abuse. And again, if the family is open to it, talk about the stigma that surrounds mental illness and suicide. Mental illnesses and suicide touch everyone. All ages, all incomes, all racial, ethnic, and religious groups, people in all parts of the country. Everyone. Studies show that family members of people who die by suicide are more likely to have people avoid them and make unhelpful comments about the death than people whose family member died of other causes. So, during your service, urge your congregation to surround the family with support and care. Remind them to ask family members how they're doing and share stories about the person they have lost. Our final goal for the service, especially if the deceased was a young person, is to reduce the chances of suicide contagion. Suicide contagion happens when suicidal behavior is imitated by others. Researchers think that guilt, identification, and modeling each play a role in contagion. Suicide contagion is rare and it's unique to teenagers and young adults, but it can result in a cluster of suicides. Studies estimate that between 1% to 5% of all suicides in this age group are a result of contagion. After a suicide death, rumors can spiral out of control. It is important for you to provide appropriate and accurate information. Present information about suicidal behavior sympathetically and carefully. To minimize contagion, avoid sensationalizing or giving unnecessary attention to the suicide. Avoid glorifying or vilifying suicide victims, and minimize the amount of detail you offer about the means of death, particularly with young people. For youth with suicide risk factors or who are showing warning signs, offer support and resources. Here are some do's and don'ts to keep in mind. Do keep in mind the special complications of grieving someone who has died by suicide. For all service participants, not just the immediate family, encourage service attendees to be gentle with themselves. Do focus on the positive accomplishments and the qualities of the deceased, as you would at any memorial service. Do consult with the family to see if they're open to reminding people that effective treatments are available for the types of problems that individuals suffer from. Do offer your faith tradition's message of hope amidst despair. Do encourage people to seek help when they are depressed and suggest resources. With the family's permission, do encourage survivors to work to increase awareness about suicide. Don't dwell on the peace the deceased may have found through death. Don't normalize the suicide by interpreting it as a reasonable response to particularly distressing circumstances. Be sure to watch the other videos in the Caring Clergy Project, Suicide Intervention and Response series, and the Making Referrals series. Remember, you can be a key person in helping your congregants find hope and reassurance and help connect them to life-saving resources. Thank you for being a caring clergy.